A man gets impurities due to the commingling of innumerable activities of the body and the organs. He gets a little joy by discarding them in dreams. But in profound sleep, he gets the highest serenity, samprasada. Hence, this state is called samprasada. The self-prasannata, prasada, prasannata, they are similar. The self in a state of profound sleep will be later on described as he is then beyond all the woes of his heart, beyond all sorrow, beyond all tension. In fact, all tensions of waking and dream will disappear in deep sleep, the only state in which we are absolutely free from all tension. He stays in a state of profound sleep, having gradually attained the highest serenity. How does he attain it? After enjoying himself, just before passing into the state of profound sleep, in the dream state, by having sight of friends and relatives, etc. Ending, he says, experiencing the fatigue due to it. So much fatigue is there that leads him to the next state. Merely seeing, not doing any evil. The results, pleasure and pain, do not attach to him. He is only the seer, the witness, not the doer. We have already said that good and evil cannot be directly visualized. You cannot say this is good, this is. An item can be good, an action can be good. Good itself is not visualized. Hence he is not fettered by them. Only one who does good and evil is so fettered. One certainly cannot come under their binding influence by merely seeing them. Therefore, being identified with dreams, the self transcends death also, not merely its forms. Hence, death cannot be urged to be its nature. Were it so, the self would be doing things in dreams, but it does not. If activity be the nature of the self, it will never attain liberation. But it is not, for it is absent in dreams. Hence, the self can be got rid of death in the form of good and evil. This is how Vedanta wants to establish the detached nature of the self, changeless, detached, ever pure, ever free nature of the self by studying this day-to-day experience of humanity, waking, dream, and sleep. Other Upanishads and other Vedantic literature explains further this great idea, bringing in new arguments to enlighten us. Whatever is not explained here will be explained in later books. Profound sleep is called. It may be asked, how is one to know that a man does not do good and evil in dreams, but merely sees their results? How are we to know? Rather, the presumption is that as he does good and evil in the waking state, so he does them in the dream state also. For the experience is the same in both cases. This is being answered. If in the text, he, the self, is untouched by whatever results of good and evil he sees in that dream state. That is the text. If he actually did anything in dreams, he would be bound by it, and it would pursue him even after he woke up. But it is not known in everyday life that he is pursued by deeds done in dreams. We don't see it actually in our life. Now, a beautiful sentence. Nobody considers himself a sinner on account of sins committed in dreams. There is a line in Sri Ramakrishna's teaching. Moner pap, pap nai. The papa done in the mind is not actual papa. Until it is translated into action, it doesn't become papa. You do in papa in the mind, remove it by a punya, then there it is over. It doesn't produce karma phala, results. Only done through the organs, it becomes a papa or a punya. Nobody considers himself a sinner on account of sins committed in dreams, nor do people who have heard of them condemn or shun them. Somebody said, I did like this in my dream. Nobody is going to shun that person, because that was in dream. Therefore, he is certainly untouched by them, untouched by all those actions and results. Hence, he only appears to be doing things in dreams, but actually there is no activity. The verse has been quoted. He seems to be enjoying himself, etc., the company of friends. Those who describe their dream experiences use the words as if in this connection. As for instance, I saw today as if a herd of elephants was running. You don't say a herd was running. As if a herd of elephants was running. Therefore, the self has no activity in dreams. How is it that it has no activity? This is being explained. We see that an action is caused by the contact of the body and the organs, which have form with something else that has form, the world outside. Body and the organs coming in touch with the world outside. Both are with form. Through that you perform an activity. We never see a formless thing being active. A formless thing cannot be active. And the self is formless. Hence it is unattached. And because this self is unattached, it is untouched by what it sees in dreams. Therefore, we cannot by any means attribute activity to it, since activity proceeds from the contact of the body and the organs, and that contact is non-existent for the self. For this infinite being is unattached. Asango hyayam purusha. There is a text. Therefore it is immortal. Unattached, therefore immortal. The idea of the immortality of the human soul came at this time in the Upanishads. Man is essentially immortal, deathless. Death belongs to the body and the organs, not to the Atman. The Gita repeats it in many beautiful verses. It is just so, Yajnavalkya told Janaka, I give you 1,000 cows. You have fully shown that the self is free from action, which is a part of the meaning of the term liberation. Please instruct me further about liberation itself. So the next verse speaks about it. He repeats the same thing. From sleep we come to dream. From dream we return back to waking, etc. That is being repeated in the next verse. Next two verses. There he says, as the Lord has said in the Gita, that is chapter 13, verse 31. The immutable Supreme Self, O Arjuna, being without beginning and without attributes, neither does anything nor is affected by its results, although it is in the body. Sharirasthopi kaunteya. That is, even though it is in the body, it's not affected by the doings of this and that organ. And the gift of 1,000 cows he made because Yajnavalkya has shown the self to be free from desire. Similarly, this and the preceding paragraph prove the non-attached nature of the self, because passing into the dream state and that of profound sleep, it is not affected by what it did in the waking state, for we do not then find actions such as theft. Therefore, in all the three states, the self is naturally unattached in all the three states. Hence it is immortal or distinct from the attributes of the three states. They come and go. The self remains in all the three states. He comes back to the former condition. Thus the idea, Shankara's commentary continues, that has been established by the last three paragraphs is that this self is itself the light and distinct from the body and organs, and their stimulating causes, namely desire and work, on account of its non-attachment. For this infinite being is unattached. How do we know that the self is unattached? How do we know? Because it moves by turn from the waking to the dream state, from this to the state of profound sleep, from that again to the dream state, then to the waking state, from that again to the dream state, and so on, which proves that it is distinct from the three states. That is the wonderful logic Shankara uses here. Being identified with dreams, it transcends this world, this waking world, which are the forms of death. Constant change is characteristic of the waking world. It transcends this world of death. Having treated this at length, the Shruti now proceeds to give an illustration, which is the only thing that remains. It is a very famous illustration, often quoted by Vedanta writers, and you will see the beauty of that illustration. Tad yatha mahamatsyaha ubhe kule anusancharati purvam cha param cha evamevayam purushaha etau ubhau antau anusancharati sapnantam cha buddhantam cha. As a great fish swims alternately to both banks of the river, this side and this side, it goes freely, eastern and western banks. So does this infinite being move to both these states, the dream and waking states. That is the Mahamatsya Drishtanta, it is called. Illustration of the Mahamatsya Drishtanta. A very interesting idea comes here. Then he says, if we consider all these passages together, Shankara says, the resulting sense is that the self is by nature eternal, free, enlightened, and pure. This comprehensive view has not yet been shown, hence the next paragraph. It will be stated later on that the self becomes such only in the state of profound sleep. That is his form, beyond desires, free from evils, and fearless, as the text has put it. As it is such that is unique, the self desires to enter this state. How is that? The next paragraph will explain it as the meaning becomes clear through an illustration one is being put forward. This is also quoted quite often. Tad yatha asmin akashe sheno va suparna va viparipatya shrantah samhatya pakshau samlayayeva triyate evamavayam purusha etasma antaya dhavati yatra supto na kanchana kamam kamayate na kanchana sapnam pashyati. As a hawk or a falcon flying in the sky becomes tired and stretching its wings is bound for its nest, so does this infinite being run for this state where, falling asleep, he craves no desires and sees no dreams. That is the Sushupti or Samprasada. Falcon is Suparna, the word used here. A swifter kind of hawk is called falcon. And so this example is followed by the next verse, verse 20. Tava asyata hita nama nadyo yatha kesha sahasrata vinna. The idea of reincarnation is introduced a little here, will be pursued a little later. In him are those nerves called hita. Hita is the name of those nerves in the body, which are as fine as a hair split into 1,000 parts. This is the language. Our people had spent a lot of time on study of the human and animal body and developed much knowledge about this also. And some of them may not be up to the mark today, but most of them are. And it is these nerves are filled with white, blue, brown, green and red serums. They are the seat of the subtle body. That is the Sukshma Sharira. This is the Sthula Sharira, in which impressions are stored. Now when he feels as if he were being killed or overpowered or being pursued by an elephant or falling into a pit in dream state, in short, he conjures at the time through ignorance whatever terrible things he has experienced in the waking state, that is the dream state. That is how we dream. Here some experience we had, we just transform it in the dream, change it, alter it, but essentially it remains. When he becomes a god as it were, or a king as it were, thinks this universe is myself, who am all, that is the highest state. Wherever that thought can come, I am the all, I am one with all, that is the highest state. Sometimes it may come to some, say. So, I am one with all, that is the highest state of knowledge. This consciousness in me is one with all. Consciousness cannot be divided, as space cannot be divided. Avibhaktam, vibhakteshu, vibhaktam, iva chastitam. Undivided, in things apparently divided, stays the Atman in all of us. That's the language. And so, next shloka says, that is his form, beyond desires, free from evils, and fearless. That is the state of the Atman, because it has become one with all. Tadva asya etad atichanda. Atichanda. It's a wonderful word in Sanskrit. To be neuter, beyond desires. Chanda, desire, ati, beyond. Atichanda. Apahatapatma. Unsmitten by any sin. No sin can touch it, can tarnish it. Vivekananda spoke very strongly on the subject in the Parliament of Religions. It is the greatest sin to call a man a sinner. Man is pure, immortal. That is his true nature, he said in that lecture. Apahatapatma, abhayam, and fearless. Man is essentially fearless as the Atman. That's the state we want to attain, fearlessness. Tadva asyetat atichanda apahatapatma abhayam rupam. That is its form. Free from all desires, absolutely fearless, that is its form. Tad yatha priya striya samparishvakto nabahyam kinchana veda nantaram evamevayam purushaha prajnenatmana samparishvakto nabahyam kinchana veda nantaram tadva asyetat aptakama atmakama akama kamarupam shokantaram. A very beautiful day-to-day life illustration is taken in that state when there is no tension, perfect peace is there in the Atman, in the deep sleep state, samprasada state. That is his form, beyond desires, free from all evils, and fearless. As a man fully embraced by his beloved wife, does not know anything at all, either external or internal, so does this Supreme Infinite Being, the Self, fully embraced by the Supreme Self, does not know anything at all, either external or internal. That is his form, in which all objects of desire have been attained. The highest satisfaction has come in that state of the Atman, and all are but the Self, and is free from desires and devoid of grief. Just an illustration to show that in that state there is neither external nor internal. Absolute unity, experience of unity you get in that state. That is what is being proclaimed by this particular verse. And comes here because this identity, Shankara's commentary on 4.3.21, Because this identity with all is his form, therefore, that is his form, the form of this self-effulgent Atman, in which all objects of desire have been attained, because it comprises all. That from which objects of desire are different has hankering after them. If a thing is different from me, I hanker after it. If it is one with me, I don't hanker. As the form called Devadatta in the waking state. But this other form is not so divided from anything. Hence in it, all objects of desire have been attained. It may be asked, can that form not be divided from other things that exist? Or is the self the only entity that exists? How? Because all objects of desire are but the self in this form. That is the second great teaching. All objects of desire are but the self in this form. They are really not separate. That understanding must come to get rid of desire. In other states, other than that of profound sleep, that is waking and dream states, things are separated, as it were, from the self and are desired as such. I want them, they run after. That kind of desire. But to one who is fast asleep, they become the self, since there is no ignorance to project the idea of difference. It is ignorance that projects the idea of difference. Hence also is this form free from desires, because there is nothing to be desired, and devoid of grief, shoka antara, no shoka is possible there. In either case, meaning is that this form of the self is free from grief, sorrow. How can a man have grief when he has realized the Atman, says the verse in the Isha Upanishad, Sarvabhuteshu Atmanam, Tatavana Vijugupsate. Similarly, when all beings are seen in the Atman, what shoka, what moha can come to such a person? And so, this state is praised very highly. In that state of absolute unity, the whole world is myself. That infinite Atman, ever free, ever pure, ever intelligent. If that state comes, what kind of result follow? Asapita, apita bhavati, mata, amata, loka, aloka, deva, adeva, veda, aveda, atra, steno, asteno, bhavati, bruna, brunaha, abrunaha, chandalo, achandalaha, Aulkasa, apolkasaha, shramano, ashramanaha, tapaso, atapasaha, and ananvagatam, punyena, ananvagatam, papena, tirno hitada, sarvan, shokan, hridayasya, bhavati. This is also often quoted, the state of that perfection. In this state, a father is no father. So far the body is concerned, it is a father, it is a mother, etc. But so far the Atman is concerned, there is no father, there is no mother. In this state, a father is no father, a mother is no mother, the worlds are no worlds, the gods are no gods. And one revolutionary idea comes, and only in the Upanishad, in no other religious literature of the world will find coming. The Vedas cease to be Vedas. You go beyond the Vedas thereby. Vedo, avedo, bhavati. All religions are fixed on the scripture. They will throw away everything else, but my scripture must remain. But this book has the courage to say, in that state of spiritual realization, the Veda ceases to be Veda. It has no authority. And many other books later on have added this statement that Vedas are of temporary authority, not permanent. Go beyond the Vedas with a statement in the Gita also. Traigunya Vishaya Veda. Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. Vedas deal with the three gunas. You go beyond the three gunas, beyond the Vedas. No other religious book. You can take the Quran, the Bible, all of them. Nowhere you will find. Throw away all other scriptures, but my scripture must remain. That is their attitude everywhere. Only in this Vedanta you find this courage and boldness to say, even these books are absolutely meaningless when you realize the truth. Ramakrishna often used to say, the Vedas do not contain God. They contain only information about God. You must search for God and discover for yourself. Like the Panchanga often contains forecast of the rainfall of the year. But if you squeeze the Panchanga, you won't get a drop of water. That is the language he has used. So here you can see, from the Vedic times, this one great teaching has saved India from enormous fanaticism. Much fanaticism is based upon the book. This book contains everything. I swear by the book, everything is there. But here, we have been given this softening. They are all useful. In the beginning, you use them. But there is a stage beyond them. Recognize that. That is taught only to the Hindus and to nobody else. Vedo avedo bhavati. In this state, a thief is no thief. The killer of a noble Brahmana is not a killer. A Chandala is not a Chandala. A Paulkasa is not a Paulkasa. A monk is no monk. A hermit is no hermit. This form of the Atman is untouched by good work and untouched by evil work. Good and evil have no meaning in that state, for he is then beyond all the woes of his heart. All the troubles and tensions of the heart, he has gone beyond in that state. This is the state of realization of the infinite Atman, the same Atman in all of us, whose own forms are the world of manifestation. This is what is going to be described later on. The Advaitic vision. One has become the many. Whatever is here is nothing but the Atman. As I often refer to the solar system. Whatever you see in the solar system is condensation of solar radiation. There is nothing else there. Similarly, in this universe, everything has come from the Atman, and the whole universe is interpenetrated by the Atman. This is the greatest teaching that is given here. And then this subject is discussed by Shankaracharya in a number of passages. Just ending, I'm telling, it has been said that the self does not see in the state of profound sleep on account of unity, as in the case of the couple, and that it is self-effulgent. This we have said earlier. Self-effulgence is being pure intelligence by nature. Self-effulgence is pure intelligence. Now the question is, if this intelligence is the very nature of the self, like the heat is of fire, how should it, in spite of the unity, give up its nature and fail to know it? You and I. Why we don't know this? That's the question. Very relevant question. And if it does not give up its nature, how is it that it does not see in the state of profound sleep? It is self-contradictory to say that intelligence is the nature of the self, and again that it does not know. If it is all intelligence, why should it not know? The answer is, it is not self-contradictory. Both these are possible. How? The next mantra gives the answer. That is 4.3.22, 23. Yadvai tatra pashyati, pashyanvai tanna pashyati, nahi drashtur viparilopo vidyate, avinashitvad, natad vitiyamasti, tato anyat vibhaktam yat pashyet. Here you can see a very high level of the presentation of the Advaitic vision of unity. That it does not see in that state is because, although seeing then, it does not see. Seeing and yet not seeing. For the vision of the witness can never be lost. The vision of the witness is always there. When an object is there or not, vision doesn't go. Vision remains. When an object is there, it will see. If it's not there, it won't see. So the vision of the seer is never lost. Can never be lost. Because it is immortal. That is the vision. Earlier, in the first chapter or second chapter, we had seen that vision is of two kinds. One is laukiki, the other is paramarthiki. Laukiki drishti can come and go. Paramakiki drishti remains all the time. This is a beautiful expression. Shankara's commentary is there. Here also the same. That it does not see in that state of profound sleep is because though seeing, it does not see. There is nothing to see. That is it. You think that it does not see in the state of profound sleep, but do not think so, because it is seeing even then. The power of sight is always there. Then, objection. But we know that in the state of profound sleep, it does not see, because then neither the eye nor the mind, which are the instruments of vision, is working. It's only when the eye, ear are at work that we say one is seeing or hearing, but we do not find the organs working. Therefore, we conclude that it must surely not be seeing in deep sleep. Reply, Shankara says, certainly not. It is seeing, for the vision of the witness can never be lost. That is a great utterance. As the heat of fire lasts as long as the fire, so is the witness, the self, immortal. And because of this, its vision too is immortal. It lasts as long as the witness does. Objection. If you do not contradict yourself, do you not contradict yourself by saying in the same breath that it is a vision of the witness and that it is never lost? Vision is an act of the witness. One is called a witness just because one sees. Hence it is impossible to say that vision, which depends on an act of the witness, is never lost. Reply. It must be immortal, because Shruti says it is never lost. Objection. No. A Shruti text merely informs. It cannot alter a fact. The destruction of something that is artificially made is a logical necessity and cannot be prevented even by 100 texts of the Vedas, because a text only informs about a thing just as it is. Shankara's reply. The objection does not hold good. The vision of the witness is possible, like the sun, revealing things, just as the sun and the like are naturally always luminous and reveal things through their natural constant light. And when we speak of them as revealing things, we do not mean that they are naturally non-luminous and only reveal things by a fresh act each time, but that they do so through their natural constant light. So is the self called a witness on account of its imperishable, eternal vision. This is the eternal nature of the drishta. Drishti of the drishta is imperishable. That's language. Eyes and others can go, but not the drishti of the drishta. Thus only can be shown a witness in the primary sense of the word. If the self were observed to exercise the function of seeing in any other way, then the former way might be secondary. Therefore, we conclude that this Atman is of the nature of pure consciousness, ever intelligent, ever seeing. That is its true nature. This is one part, and now we take up some further slokas. Quite a number of slokas are here. A few slokas came, simple type without much reference to this philosophy as such. Now come to 4.3.30. Substances that have no parts cannot be conceived as multiple. A simple, for example. You can't find a multiple of the simple. That's the meaning of being simple. Today's search in nuclear physics to search for the elementary particle is of that nature. That particle which cannot be further divided is called elementary particle. They are in search of it. So far they have not succeeded. They are going on. He is telling the same thing. Substances that have no parts cannot be conceived as multiple, for there is no such example. Although the ether, that is space, is conceived as possessing diverse attributes such as all-pervasiveness, and atoms as possessing various qualities such as odor and savor. Yet, when discriminated, these prove to be due only to extraneous limiting adjuncts. By themselves, they have none of this. Even today's atomic theory will justify the statement. The ether or space, for instance, has no attribute of its own, called all-pervasiveness. It is through its association with all as limiting adjuncts that it is designated as all-pervading. Take this whole space. It is all-pervading regarding the universe around us. We can cut it into bits like a hall, like a room, like a vessel. And these are only apparent limitation. It has no limitation at all. It is present everywhere in its natural form. The question of going or not going does not arise with regard to the ether in itself. Either comes, either goes, we cannot say. Ether is universal. Going is an action that connects something existing at a particular place with some other place. And this action is impossible in a thing that admits of no differentiation. Unless you have a part of ether, then you can say a part has gone. Here there is no part. Ether is without any part. The Atman is without any part. Consciousness has no parts. So one goes, one remains. You cannot say that. So that is the close logic followed by Shankara. Similarly, different attributes can never be in the ether. The same is also true of the atoms. An atom, say, of earth, which consists only of odor, is the minutest particle of it and is itself odor. One cannot conceive that it again has a property called odor. That is the Indian way of dealing with the 5 elements. Each has a particular quality, like hearing, like sight, like odor, etc. All the Panchabhutas. It may be urged, atom can have savor, taste, but that is due to its contact with water and so on. Therefore, there is no example to prove that a substance which has no parts can possess many attributes. A universal statement. A substance which has no parts cannot produce, cannot have many attributes. This also refutes the view that the powers of vision and so forth of the Supreme Self can have different modifications such as the eyes and the colors, etc. Now this is the statement. It continues further. Very important sentences are coming. This is the world of Brahman. Yajnavalkya tells Janaka, we have realized this truth like that. He is telling in the next section. We shall deal with it tomorrow, next Sunday, when we meet here. The 4:3:30. That is the text. Towards the end, simple verses come. Very beautiful. And the next chapter, story of Yajnavalkya and his wife, Maitreyi. That is a very interesting chapter that we shall enjoy when we come to that level. We shall spend a minute in silence and then disperse. We were studying verse 30 of chapter 3 of book 4. In that it was mentioned why we do not have a sense of duality in the deep sleep. It is only the observer, the seer. There is nothing seen. In waking state, dream state, we have objects, subject-object relation. But in the sleep state, there is no such relation. Only the seer remains in its own essential state. The reason given is there is no second thing there for you to see. That is the verse 30. It said like, if there is a second thing, you will see. If there is no second thing, how can you see? So the text begins. We referred to it last Sunday. Yatra va anyamiva syat, tatra anyo anyat pashyet, anyo anyat jigret, Anyo anyat raset, Anyo anyat vadet, Anyo anyat shnuyat, Anyo anyat anveta, Anyo anyat prasheta, Anyo anyat vijaniyat. These are various examples are taken. When there is something else, as it were, then one can see something, smell something, taste something, speak something, hear something, think something, touch something, and know something. That is why all knowledge needs subject-object relationship. There is no object. And so, what is the state of the reality when there is no object? We have it in deep sleep, where the pure Atman shines in its own glory. There is no second thing which it can talk to or see, etc. And that state is described in the next verse. Yes, verse 32, a very famous verse. Salila eko drashta advaito bhavati esha brahmalokaha samrad iti. It becomes transparent like water. Salila, absolutely pure, clear water. One, eko, the witness. Drashta, the witness. Then, bhavati advaito, non-dual. Eka is not enough. So the word advaita is used. No two. We use the word advaita. Very, very, very logical way of naming that philosophy. It is not two. That's all. We don't say it is one. Because if it is one, there must be a two. They are correlatives. But we say it is not two. The real meaning of Advaita is not two. That's all. There is no two. Advaita. Bhavati. Samraditi. O Emperor, this is that state. Advaita. Brahmaloka. Esha Brahmaloka. This is the state of being Brahman. That absolute non-dual reality. Iti Hainam Anushashasa Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya taught this to Janaka, the emperor. Eshasya parama garihi. Eshasya parama sampat. Esho asya paramo loga. Esho asya parama ananda. Etaseva anandasya anyani bhutani matram upajivanti. A profound truth is uttered in that last sentence. The whole text, read, this is the world, the state of Brahman, O Emperor. Thus did Yajnavalkya instruct Janaka. This is its supreme moment, attainment, supreme attainment. Yashosya parama gatihi, supreme attainment. Similarly, this is its supreme glory. Sasya parama sampat. Sampat actually means wealth, supreme glory. And this is its highest world. Paramo loka. Any existence cannot go beyond this. Subtlest existence, where you come to state of non-duality. There is nothing higher than that. Similarly, this is its supreme bliss. Ananda, Parama Ananda. Yashosya Parama Ananda. The acme of bliss is that state of the infinite Atman, one and non-dual, said Yajnavalkya. Then he adds a wonderful statement which is developed also in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Etasyeva anandasya anyani bhutani matram upajivanti. A fraction of this ananda is what human beings get through their sensory contacts with sense objects. Just a fraction of this ananda you get out of all this. That is a wonderful statement in the Taittiriya also. Etasyeva anandasya matram upajivanti. Ananda is one